I talk a little bit about my history. My history tended to be living in a black environment and going to school in a white environment. And so that, like I didn't really feel like I belonged to any group. So I just kind of, went through life and did what I do, but didn't really have a connection. Growing up, we didn't really talk a lot about kind of the culture, black culture or African culture. We just kind of lived our life. My parents and grandparents and even cousins, I don't recall them like being involved in like the struggle at those times, like in the civil rights actions. I'm sure that they had views and watched it, but we weren't the family that like went to the rallies. And so then of all places, when I wound up going to Stanford University, I took this class called Psychology of the Black Experience. And so in that class, it really taught me about my cultural self and opened that like a new door. Like I had to find out what this and that and read Black history, and to the point where I was pre-med and I was like reading everything else but for the classes that I was enrolled in, because I was just really interested in just who I was. So I started taking, this class called Capoeira. It was an African Brazilian martial art, and Haitian dance classes. And so then after graduation, I came to Denver, and just still trying to build upon building this cultural self. I went to Africa, went to Kemet, and so that was great, like with 800 black people, in this association for study of classical African civilizations. So it was just great, just being around all that. It was so empowering, because here in Denver too, there's not a really big black community, so kind of isolated. And so I also changed my name. I got an African name. I actually took a name that meant knowledge, Sia, but then I went to see a priest, an African priest, and he basically told me I needed a name that kind of reinforced my destiny. And I found out that my destiny was following my ancestors, so then I took the name Senaku, and that means following the ancestors is my destiny. And I feel that it's really important to just start to really explore that root, because that's what grounds you, in all that you do. Here I am, whether I wear my African clothes, I can, mountain bike, I can African dance, I can hike, I can do like multiple things, but just be what I call my authentic African self, and just feel kind of comfortable in that and feel empowered.
I don't know, I guess I would say my biggest challenge, or maybe like a light bulb moment, I think was my relationship to my hips and practice. And so I learned that, I guess, that whole sacral chakra piece, whenever we're doing kind of like hip-centric activity, I struggled a lot to have a key awareness, or struggle to find an awareness period of like inner hip, outer hips at all, and it was just really not understanding why I was just struggling with that area of my body, and struggling with being able to bring attention or awareness to it in order to be able to kind of like change or engage, let alone like liberate it. And so I think that like what I guess like during Shavasana a lot, after we would do practice, I think I would learn a lot. I began asking myself the question, like, why do I not know what my hips are? And I realized that there really was, like in the case of me, like being a gay boy who had a lot of femininity, I learned to pay a lot of attention to the way that I walked, and learned that my hips and their movement and their fluidity was problematic. And so some of that you learn just through kind of how you were raised, that, fluid hip movement in males is not okay, and also too later on in life, that fluid hip movement in males needs to be stopped for safety reasons. And so through yoga, through asanas, I learned that like I had kind of been taught to isolate my hips, to freeze them, to put a black cloud around them, and now as an adult in this program, as somebody who thought they were pretty self-aware, to kind of come to the startling realization, through practice that, I don't know my body, that there's a part of me that I had learned to just disengage and freeze out. And so that was pretty horrifying to learn, but I would say liberating in a sense, because now that I understand that, my body is something that needs to be integrated, and that and then part of my practice for me is to kind of uproot and lift out maybe like the disruption in the narrative of my body. Well, I would say sacral chakra and those exercises taught me that I'd had this connection. And so now I feel like I'm in a place that I can reconnect.
I am talking about the solar plexus today, and the way that I like to think about it is transforming our ability to be proactive versus being reactive or inactive. And the biggest impact I feel like in my life of racism, sexism, all these things, it's not the impact on my aspirational abilities, but honestly, how I see myself. There are things for us that are normal that shouldn't have to be normal. Like, it's normal for us to not see ourselves. It's normal for us to have these issues with the specific aspects of our beauty that make us unique, right? Like our hair and our lips and all the body parts, right? So I was committed to being surrounded by positive images of myself. Period. And so I started a blog, and on my blog I only have photos of big-bodied women. I have photos of afro-haired women, all the women of colors, mermaids, flowers. Basically, just all the things that I love and that make me happy. And real talk, like after a really hard day or hard week, like scrolling through those images of beauty, it's feeding my prana, right? Like, it literally gives me so much life, and it's transformed the way that I see myself. It's transformed the way that I react when I look in the mirror, because it's shifted something for me. So how could we be wrong? How can our stretch marks be wrong? Our cellulite, our thighs, our lips, how can any of it be wrong? And so through processes of really transforming the images I surround myself with, I've been able to gain, this inner confidence, right? And it's not about lording over other people, but it's really manifesting within inside myself. And what that looks like is my capacity to love and accept other people has expanded so much greater than it ever could have. When we're thinking about sort of engaging our solar plexus, engaging, our confidence and trying to get our inner lion out, one method is feeding our visual prana and feeding it with us and just us. And it's one of the strategies we have to adapt as people of color living in this place called home. This is my secret Tumblr. So this makes me so happy. Like, I can't stop smiling. So yeah, this is what I do to feed my prana.
First places we learn about our heart is from our mother and father, and my mother passed away from the 4th stage of breast cancer, and she started in stage 4, and my father died from heart failure. So I promised my mom that I wouldn't go out like that, and so I had to really transform how I dealt with my heart. And I would say I grew up basically with a lot of feelings. I was a definitely emotional, feeling kind of young person, and there wasn't a lot of place for that in the world. And so I used music and probably experimentation with drugs and sex and all different things to avoid feelings, until I evolved and started to realize that my feelings weren't going to go anywhere. And I remember being so scared, like if I start to feel like they're going to flood out of me and there's not going to be anything left but all these negative feelings. Being a woman of color, I come from a lineage of women who have been abused. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother all experienced violence. And I think that the impact of violence on the heart is scarring. And it leaves open wounds that seep with pain. And so I think being a woman of color, one of the expectations is that we're strong and we're just going to overcome it. And I just think that one of the things that we're going to have to face is that pain and those seeping wounds. And what we need to do to seal them is not be busy. And it's not taking care of more people. It's to start to begin to take care and love ourselves. And so I take care of my heart by definitely practicing letting stuff go, and not being stuck when I'm harmed. I also practice sea salt baths. I also laugh a lot. Comedy is a big part of my life. And I would also say that I allow myself to feel, and I allow others to feel around me. And so I keep the energy flowing. And then my favorite thing in yoga was learning the mudras, because I think everything is involved with energy. And so whenever I felt my heart being heavy, I would practice my mudras, and that's when I would feel like the flow moving, and I would definitely be the star pupil on the mudra love. But yeah, practicing caring for the heart keeps the disease away and keeps me healthy. Thanks.
For me, the throat chakra has always been a really important one as a woman and as a woman of color, because there's this sort of dichotomy. At once you're expected to be the representative of your race, so when your issues are hyper visible, you're expected to sort of speak up and just represent your race as a whole. But then when you are vocal about your issues, I think that oftentimes we're archetyped as angry or being overly sensitive or just sort of too PC. So there's this weird imbalance that happens, which makes it kind of hard to vocalize.
I actually believe that there is a cultural fifth chakra wound that is the result of Black folks not being able to tell white folks the whole truth during slavery for fear of losing their lives. But whether or not there is a cultural wound, it is certainly a big issue of mine. Because I can tell you for a fact that a year ago at this time, I would not have felt comfortable even making this video. But I do still have a long way to go. I can think of at least 2 instances recently where I actually started sentences that I couldn't finish as if my vocal cords shut down. Physically, we know that that can't be the case, but energetically, that is exactly what happened. I suppose that it's a good sign that I was even able to start those sentences, because I have certainly spent years thinking things that I wanted to say but was unable to even start saying. But of course, my goal is to get to the point where I can finish all of my sentences with the truth. But I'm really excited about the simple fact that singing is a good way to heal your fifth chakra wounds. I've been studying the chakras for over 8 years, and it kind of amazes me that I'd never internalized that fact before, although I suppose that's because I was not ready for that treatment until now. Lately, I've been working on Miss Seeley's Blues, and I'd like to sing a bit of that for you now. Scuffling, I've been up that lonesome road, and I've seen a lot of suns going down. But trust me, no low life's gonna run me around. Thank you.
So, as a woman of color, I have experienced, since, childhood, in schools, we are taught that, the third eye aspect of ourselves, the visionary aspect of ourselves isn't important. It's not an important thing. It's not a real thing. It's not a piece of ourselves that we need to cultivate or develop in any way. Afrofuturism is so important when it comes to the third eye chakra, as well as, you know, all of our energy centers, but this idea of being able to vision, this idea of being able to tap into our higher selves, to imagine ourselves, vision ourselves deep into the future, is an extremely powerful tool for people of color, because and all oppressed peoples, because if you're able to envision yourself in the future, you're able to kind of transcend the moments and the painful moments of now. So I love Afrofuturism because of it giving us tools to work in an artistic way with our visions and trying to manifest ourselves in the future and place us there. Like, it's so bold as to place us in the future, because a lot of these conversations are happening without us in as our cities are growing and booming. You know, Denver has been growing rapidly over the past few years, and a lot of people of color are left out of the conversation. So I appreciate what Afrofuturism does in terms of helping us, in terms of giving us a channel through which to express ourselves and create and manipulate the future in a way that to where we can see ourselves there. Like, we're in it. Like, we exist there. We live there now because someone else wrote us in it. And that's a beautiful thing.
So as I've been thinking about the crown chakra and all that I've learned over the past few months, I have realized I've been thinking really intentionally about my hair and my own relationship to hair. In fact, people call it, a crown in some cases. I decided about 2 years ago to go completely natural and stop straightening my hair. And it's been a really difficult journey for me. I had to start by following certain people on YouTube and on Instagram so I could get used to what women look like with natural hair, because I've very rarely been able to see that in my own daily life. And then I finally went natural. I stopped straightening my hair completely, and it was difficult for me. And I was told in a couple different settings at my last job that having natural hair was actually unprofessional. And my boss at the time told me that if I wanted to wear my hair like that, just to know that what it said to other people. And so in so many ways, just through my relationship with my hair, I've been very disconnected from myself. And I've noticed that now that I've been natural, and my hair is big and curly and wavy and frizzy sometimes. I've found a new connection with myself. But even more importantly, I've discovered a new connection to my ancestors. One that's quite literal in the sense I can feel so closely my great-grandmother, who actually refused to straighten her hair when she was younger. She wouldn't do it. She wouldn't sit for the relaxing chemicals because she said it burned her. I can feel her closely to me. My aunt, who just passed, was one of the women who would do my hair on a regular basis. One of the only women, actually, who would do my hair. Everybody else refused to braid it, and she was the only one. And she just passed last year, and I can feel her very closely as I sit and try to work out how to do my own hair. That is a very tangible connection to very specific ancestors through my hair. Mothers and aunties will sit down and actually braid your hair, and it's a way for us to spend time with one another, and it's a way to really truly convey love. So through my hair, I've discovered so much more about myself, and I've connected deeply with myself, and I've connected deeply to my past and my ancestors who have gone before me.